So LeBron James, I think a lot of you may know that guy. Of course, he plays for the Lakers. Unfortunately, just got injured. He is now the record holder for the most points of all time, on top of 10,000 rebounds and 10,000 assists. And he's also the best basketball player that I have ever watched in my life, given the fact that the guy's career is literally older than me. For reference, LeBron's career is 20 years old and I am 17. And this begs me to ask a question. The question that everyone wants the answer to. Is LeBron James the best player that this world has ever seen? So, of course, as you guys know, without further ado, I'm going to get into the video. But, of course, make sure to like, subscribe, turn notification buttons, help me out a little bit. Without further ado, I'm going to get into this video. Now, of course, when it comes to the greatest of all time, there are about three groups of people. They're the MJ stans, they're the LeBron stans, and then they're the people who are wrong. But seriously, this is a very heated debate. Now, of course, the maybe 5% who don't believe either one of these guys are the GOATs, they usually go with Kobe or Wilt or Kareem or Larry Bird or somebody totally ridiculous. The bottom line is that the two we're debating today are Michael Jordan and LeBron James. And of course, I have never done this topic on the channel because one, I feel like it's a little bit redundant. And two, Stephen A. Smith on ESPN gives you the daily update on the GOAT debate anyway. So I figured, why do it? But when LeBron broke the scoring record, I knew that I had to get right on the tally. So I went through the very tedious process of calculation. I looked at every total. I looked at every stat. I looked at every advanced metric. And basically, I put them all on the chart for you to decide who the GOAT is. And I'm going to tell you who I think it is based on this information we see in this video. Now, first, I want to start off with the basics. The totals. As you can see with the chart right in front of you, LeBron James leads most of these totals by an overwhelming amount. This is what happens when you play 19 years to 20 years in the league and average 27 points a game for your career. LeBron, record holder in points. He is a top 5 assist man of all time, and not to mention, he's also been amazing on the defensive end, also wrapping up a lot of steals. But then you go to the averages, and you see how the differences weigh in. You go to the averages and realize that Michael Jordan has a slight advantage, of course, in points and in steals. Michael Jordan, once again, was one of the best defensive players of all time, so it makes sense that he is a leader in steals when it comes to averages in the regular season. Now I'm going to get to the awards. And yes, awards is in quotations for very, very obvious reasons. I think a lot of these awards can be a little bit redundant. I think a lot of them are weighed in too much when talking about the GOAT debate, and I also think a lot of them are pretty biased. Like, come on, LeBron James should have 8 MVPs. Same thing you could say about Michael Jordan. But you see it right here. LeBron is a staggering 19-time All-Star and 18-time All-NBA player, while Michael Jordan was one of the best defensive guards of all time and won a Defensive Player of the Year as a guard, along with 9 All-Defensive teams, which is tied for a record for NBA guards. Of course, MJ, 5-time MVP, 6 rings, all of that. I don't have to go over that. And of course, going to the advanced metrics. Now, a lot of people are not really used to using advanced metrics, to say the least. But my basketball nerds out there, you're going to know what these mean. And I did this specifically for you. I measured PER, box plus minus, total shooting percentage, and win shares over a career. And as you can see, these categories are very, very even. LeBron and MJ are literally separated by a slither of an amount when looking at the stats. Now, there are all the stats, and I could end this video right here and pretty much be every other guy you see on YouTube. But we're not ending the video here. Sure, there are a lot of reasonable stats for measuring great NBA players, but the one very big word that a lot of people forget is a word that I like to call context. A lot of people use extreme lack of context when judging the GOAT debate. So, I'm going to give you some context right now. Some of these stats may be a little inflated or deflated due to the age of each player, how long each player played, the teams that the players were on, how much these players had to do on those teams, and whether their team was good or bad. So keep that in mind. Context is very important. Now I want to go to a major quote, a quote from the Chinese philosopher Lao Tzu. He says something along the lines of, "The flame that burns twice as bright lasts half as long." So I want to imply some of this logic into our debate. Michael Jordan's light burned violently for 12 to 13 seasons in his prime. He was no doubt the best player in the league in the mid-90s. The guy was absolutely ridiculous. The dude was averaging like 37, 5, and 5. Like, the dude was insane. He was easily, consistently, the best player in the league. But, let's just say, for circumstantial purposes, that there was a player whose light burned just as bright, maybe a little less. But his light burned for a long, very long time. So in this discussion, which player is better? Which option is better? Does this make it a hard choice? Now I'm going to go into a little bit of what these players' careers are like. LeBron has been a top 5 player in the NBA very consistently over 20 seasons. The guy is 38 years old and somehow putting up the same numbers he put up as a 22-year-old in 2007 when I had to watch this man get tortured by the Spurs in the finals. Bad experience for all of us LeBron fans out there. This man started his career with having to carry a poor Cavs team, won 2 championships in Cleveland despite winning a ring. He still had to carry Cleveland at the end of the day. He won 2 championships in Miami, actually. He went back to Cleveland, where despite winning a ring, he had to go and carry the team again in 2019 and 18. All of us know the story. But either way, he's still 38 years old, and despite a lot of injuries, despite LeBron breaking down and slowing down, and as a LeBron fan, I can definitely tell you that LeBron has broke down and slowed down over his career, the guy is still going strong. Now, Michael Jordan, let's just say his story is a little bit different. After 3 years in college, Michael Jordan started off as easily a top 3 player in the NBA during his 3rd season. He was no doubt the number 1 player in the NBA when it came to his prime in the 1990s. People tend to forget that the guy at the beginning of his career, though, was getting dominated despite putting up all-time level numbers. Let's not be biased here, all right? I love Michael Jordan. But I'm willing to admit that at the beginning of his career, he was getting absolutely destroyed by the Celtics, the Pistons, the Lakers, and basically the entire Eastern Conference. The status quo for the Bulls was pretty much let Michael Jordan average 35 points and we go and lose in the playoffs. That was pretty much the status quo. But Michael Jordan became, let's just say the Bulls knew how to surround their player with talent. Unlike the Cavaliers in the early days and the later 2010s. The guy went 6-0 in the finals, dethroning team after team. He started off being the Bulls' entire franchise, but then Chicago saw what they had. They surrounded Michael Jordan with talent and a team that he needed to dominate the NBA in that decade. And he had arguably the most underrated players in the league at the time. Scottie Pippen, probably the most underrated player of all time. And it seems like the team was way more invested in watching Michael Jordan win and dominate the 1990s than the Cavs were invested in watching LeBron James possibly dominate the 2000s when it came to winning perspective. Now, what does this information mean? You're like, Micah, you just told me a story about these guys' careers. What is this information leading up to? Well, just for more context, you can really argue that LeBron got the short end of the stick when it comes to his career. He plays in a more talented era, and he's had to compete with super teams. For example, the Golden State Warriors. I don't even think I need to go over that one. That was ridiculous. The Thunder in 2012, the Spurs in the early 2000s and the mid-2010s, and even the Celtics over and over again. The Celtics were very, very good. They actually eliminated LeBron before he went to the Miami Heat, in which the Miami Heat pretty much dominated the Celtics for those upcoming years. Then Kevin Garnett got old. They went to Brooklyn, and yeah, it got really bad. But the bottom line is that LeBron, he had to deal with a lot of teams. Now, Michael Jordan's career was a little bit different. The guy hit his prime just when the Pistons were getting old, the Lakers were getting old, and unfortunately Magic Johnson had to retire due to illness. The Celtics were also on the downturn as well, with back injuries to Hall of Famer and one of the best players of all time, Larry Bird, along with Kevin McHale getting very old as well. If you don't know, Kevin McHale was the second best player on those Celtics teams. The bottom line is that you could not have written a better story for Michael Jordan's career. He was rising up just as the super teams of the late and mid-'80s were going down. While LeBron James was rising up, there were a whole bunch of teams that were doing nothing but seemingly competing with him and getting in the way of LeBron winning a championship title. Now, I understand that both players have no control over this, but I do think it is worth mentioning in a GOAT conversation. So we're down to the question, who in the world is the GOAT? Micah, I came here for you to tell me who the GOAT is. And I'm going to tell you that right now. For me, I'm okay with either one, but my friends will always tell you that I am a LeBron stan. I was born in 2005, guys. LeBron is literally all I know, and the volume of his record combined with his playoff success and his longevity is what does it for me. He made that point record, 38,000 something, 38,000, almost 39,000 points now. And the volume and the way he continues to be consistent, it's crazy to me. That's why I choose LeBron James. But I don't blame anybody for choosing Michael Jordan. He changed and revolutionized the game, and he was the first really worldwide NBA basketball superstar, if you will. Now, here's the one thing that I want people to do in the GOAT debate. Now, a lot of people love Michael Jordan, and that's warranted. The guy's probably the best player to ever grace the planet. But Michael Jordan GOAT stands seem to think that Michael Jordan is and forever will be the GOAT of basketball. Not the case. Michael Jordan is a fantastic player, but you have to take into consideration all of the respectable talent around the NBA. I mean, Michael Jordan, while he's an amazing player, he has not been able to do what LeBron's been able to do. Michael Jordan played 15 seasons. People tend to forget those last 2 years in which he pretty much played for a boo-boo Wizards team. But he played for 15 seasons. LeBron has played for 20 years and has sustained that scoring average over that long in the course of his career. Absolutely ridiculous. I choose LeBron due to volume, his records, and championships, even though I think championships are more of a team accolade, and I think the MVPs are a little, redundant. We can all say that MVPs are, I think they're very, very biased at times. Voter fatigue is a real thing, ladies and gentlemen, so that's another thing. So I don't really measure on that. I measure on the player itself, and when I see LeBron James, I see somebody who is doing the complete impossible. Michael Jordan did great, but I take LeBron James as my GOAT pick. Who do you think is going to be the GOAT? Who do you think is the GOAT? Who do you think has a chance at being the GOAT? You guys let me know in the comments. There are plenty of records between these two players. I could debate with you for 2 hours on why I think LeBron James is the GOAT and why I think Michael Jordan may not be the GOAT or why Michael Jordan has a chance to be the GOAT. All your ESPN stuff. What Stephen A. Smith talks about, giving you a daily take on the GOAT debate, I can do that too. But I choose not to do that. I'm going to respect two of the greatest players of all time. And while I think one is better than the other, I can admit that saying Michael Jordan is the GOAT of the NBA does not sound foolish at all. But of course, thank you for watching. Make sure to like, subscribe, turn the notification bell. You guys help me out a little bit. Of course, I want you to stay loved, stay blessed. I wish you nothing but the best. Thank you for watching. And also let me know who your GOAT is.